We're recording. Hi, Diana. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. Well, terrific. So, yes, I'm one of the members of the Public Space Research Group, and this is the group that's undertaking the survey this summer. And I'm here with other members. I've been with the Public Space Research Group, if you had a chance to listen to the recordings that we posted in Module 1 for quite a few years, since like 1996, doing park research with Seth Lowe and Dana Taplin and others. And we're so glad to be launching this project and to have this online training, and just want to underscore that this is an adventure. It's a bit of an experiment to kind of gather so many people and to try to get us all on the same page, so that we can do a really good job with the survey and really help the parks understand its constituents, and how people really enjoy the park, and so that we can really contribute to the centennial. So I want to welcome everyone. I'm going to ask the members of the Public Space Research Group to introduce themselves. But before I do that, let me ask, did everyone access the agenda for today? So we have a box on Google, and you should have received a prompt, and the agenda for today's session is there. Is that are thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay. Okay. Terrific. Okay. Let's see. Kevin, do you want to say hello?
Hello. It's nice to meet everybody. My name is Kevin Zemlicka. I teach in the anthropology department here at California State University, Northridge. I'm also an academic advisor and an applied anthropologist, mostly working with qualitative research methods. Have previously worked with Dana and Suzanne and Seth Lowe, and I'm very excited to be a part of this again.
Terrific. Thank you. And Dana Taplin is here in the room. Where are you, Dana?
Right here.
Okay.
I am Dana Taplin. I have worked with Suzanne and Seth. I would say it was since beginning in '94, but maybe the Public Space Research Group didn't take its identity for a couple of years until a couple of years later. Anyway, we've done many studies for park agencies, national park and local parks, and in 2012 with Kevin and Suzanne and Seth and others, we did a study of 3 New York state parks. So I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to this.
Yeah, terrific, terrific. Thank you. So Seth Lowe, who is the director of the Public Space Research Group, will be joining us on Wednesday, and she sends her greetings for today. Then also another member working with us is Nathan Romine. He's a research lead, and he won't be with us for the training, but he will soon appear on the scene, and those who will be working with him will get a chance to meet with him soon. Olive, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm Olive.
Olive is our tech support. If you have any issues, you can contact her. I'll put her email in the chat, and I think people received it in the email with the link to the meeting. Let's hear some words from the folks who started this project. And Andy, let me turn it over to Andy.
Thanks, Suzanne. And I'm going to ask to share my screen in a moment. I think you need to make me a co-host. I don't know if that's on Olive or not, but hi, everyone. Andy Fife, Assistant Deputy Commissioner in the Albany Office of Parks. I really appreciate everyone on the line's time. The Pulse of the Parks project and our partnership with the Open Space Institute and Public Space Research Group is a really important part of the Centennial campaign. It's really going to help formulate the storyline and the information for the 2024 campaign that you're going to see a little bit more about. Suzanne, can I share my screen? Okay.
You should be able to now.
So I'm going to share it in 1 second, just so you all know. I think I know a bunch of you. My role with Parks is in the Commissioner's office is to work with Diana Carter on our land acquisition program, and with Patrick Yacco, who's on our partnership program. But the third thing is special projects. Among them for me has been the Empire State Trail, the Excelsior Conservation Corps Connect Kids program, the Friends Group grant program, and now the Centennial Pulse of the Parks, which I'm really excited about. And we'll start sharing in a second. Suzanne, you might have to do it. I don't.
Oh, yeah?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we're working now. Can you guys see it? Well, you're not supposed to see my notes, but that's why I was saying you might have to do it for me.
If you can, you just put, yeah, exactly. Choose a slideshow.
Yeah, I just don't know how to
There you go.
access my notes though.
Oh, I see. I see. Hmm.
There was supposed to be a presenter view. Does anyone know how to do that?
I think you need two screens
All right, it's okay. I'll wing it.
for presenter.
Sorry, I'll bear with me for a sec. So welcome to the Pulse of the Parks and the Centennial. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview, starting with where will your next adventure take you? A vision 100 years ago to connect people to New York State most celebrated lands has since transformed into the state park system we know and love today. A system as vast and varied as its visitors, encompassing 360,000 acres of beaches, campgrounds, trails, golf courses, and so much more. A collection of protected lands, some timeless and others yet to be discovered. While you have your favorites, you may have your favorites, we treasure each and every one of our 250 plus properties. From world-renowned Niagara Falls, boasting the wonders of nature, is the largest collection of Revolutionary War sites spotlighting our state's rich historic heritage. This system was built for you. For 100 years, you've walked our trails, camped in our forests, organized summer cookouts, and swam in our lakes and ponds and pools. You've created memories and passed down traditions. You've helped forge the last 100 years of recreation and stewardship, and will help ignite the 100 years ahead. So what you're seeing is a bit of an animation that really leans into our logo, that's recognized. But what are the campaign elements that we hope to launch? What are the pieces for the Centennial? Our marketing team is working on specific web pages that you'll see in the coming months, individual social media campaigns. You'll see video content specific to the Park Centennial, including Parks and Sites by the Numbers, 101, the history of the park system, and opportunities for the public to share their story. We'll have events and activities by site, specific to sites. And the commissioner will double down on his already busy schedule and be going on a commissioner's roadshow specific to the centennial. Also, partnerships with other agencies are a key part of this, and our marketing folks are working on several partnerships with other agencies. Just a little bit about our timeline. So the first phase is really the tease phase. So soon, actually in the coming month, you'll start to see teasers talking about the centennial, kind of priming our audience and our patrons to what it is, looking forward to 2024. The next phase of education was really going to raise awareness about the original mission behind the system and start to educate everyone on that. Obviously, our sites and our interpretive team is key to that. And then commemoration will really be the longest phase, where we look to expand the support, encourage and increase new visits and new visitors, and really lean into the next phase of ignition, igniting ideas for the next 100 years. And the Pulse of the Parks surveys and reports are a key part of all this that will inform throughout these phases. So we will see you out there. That is our tagline. I should mention that the logo you're seeing and the tagline, "We'll see you out there," really hasn't been made public yet. So we'd appreciate it being kept among us. In the next month, you'll start to see public campaigns about that. So thank you, Suzanne. That's all from me. And I will turn it back to you unless anyone has questions for me from the Albany office.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? I think it's helpful to know all of that, because when we introduce and approach people in the field and ask them if they'll, take this survey, we'll want to explain to them where it's coming from. So I appreciate learning a little bit about the broader initiative that's going on. Anyone want to ask anything or comment? Okay. Well, thanks so much, Andy, for sharing all of that with us and for coming today. And hopefully I can touch base with you or Patrick to let us know when we might be able to share more information, maybe point people to printed information when it becomes available during the summer, as I think people will be interested to know more about what the various different initiatives are.
Absolutely. And I thank you, Suzanne, Dana, and team for all you've done. And I just can't overstate the importance of this survey to inform what we're doing. There's so much behind each one of those slides and how many things our public affairs team is working on. So really appreciate everyone's time. And I have to jump to another meeting, but good luck with the training and stay in touch, please.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming.
Andy.
Take care. Let's continue with some introductions before we dive into talking about the survey. Let's see, Diana, I think, is next on our list of folks who want to say hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Carter. I'm the Assistant Division Director for the Division of Environmental Stewardship and Planning. I oversee the Planning and Analysis Bureau, which consists of our park planners, our environmental analysts, and our real property section. I've been involved in surveys and data collection my entire career, so it's a real honor to help out and collect information about our state park system. And thank you, everyone, for volunteering and participating in this important endeavor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much. Christina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Kroll, the GIS and data manager for State Parks. The part of Diana's old bureau that she left out was the statistical analysis section. So that's transitioned from her to me. And it's a big shoes to fill, but I hope we do it aptly. So I've also been involved with data collection at parks for many years and am really looking forward to this survey. I think we're going to collect some excellent data about the state park visitor and stories about why these places are so important. And I thank you so much for your participation in this effort. I know summer is a very busy season, but we really, really appreciate each park contributing, and then the Albany office staff who are going to be assisting in the different sites. So thank you so much for your help, and we will get, the numbers geeks and all of us will be getting some great information. We really, truly appreciate your help.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Patrick. Let me see.
Morning, everyone. It's great to see so many new faces on the training. My name is Patrick Yako, and an Empire State Fellow working with Andy Fife in partnerships. I'm also on the Centennial Planning Committee, and I'm very excited for this report. It's going to provide a lot of deeper demographic information for our visitors and give us a great snapshot of who's coming to the parks, and also help us to plan for the next generation of park goers. I also want to, like everybody else has been doing, thank everybody for being on this call.
Yep.
Part of the park in their own way, whether you're part of a friends group, if you're an educator, if you're part of the planning staff, but together.
Frozen. Oh, uh-oh. Patrick is frozen. Patrick, can you hear us? Okay, well, can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that, Patrick. I guess there's a connectivity issue over there, but thank you too. I want to thank Patrick for all of his efforts in coordinating everyone and helping everyone get to this meeting today. He's been putting in a lot of work, and it's great to be working with him. Let me turn it over to Michaela Roberts from the Open Space Institute.
Everyone, good morning and welcome. My name is Michaela Roberts, and I am a Parks Project Manager with the Open Space Institute. We also refer to ourselves as OSI, for those of you who don't know us, but we are a nonprofit environmental conservation organization. We work across the Eastern US and Canada, do a lot of our work in New York. It's where we started. And we partner with communities to protect land, to promote clean air and water, combat climate change, improve public access to nature, and protect wildlife habitat. My role in this project is managing the project on behalf of OSI. We are funding the project and actively fundraising, and we will also be producing and publishing the final report that summarizes the survey findings. I'm really excited to welcome you to this project, and thank you for volunteering your time to make it possible. We really could not undertake this work without you. This is a really unique opportunity for state parks and OSI. I believe this is the first statewide demographic study of park visitors. And this project builds off of OSI's previous work with the Public Space Research Group, doing visitor studies at individual state parks, such as Jones Beach, Walkway Over the Hudson, Lake Welch at Harriman State Park. I'm happy to share the link with the research team to distribute on those previous studies, just to give you a flavor of what we've done in the past. But this is really the culmination, or really a culmination of that work. And it'll be exciting to learn about who is visiting parks at this, important snapshot in time as we enter, it's the park system's 100th year. This work is also going to be so valuable to understanding how we can continue advocating for parks and continue to improve parks for the diversity of visitors. With that said, thank you again for undertaking this work. I hope you have fun and learn a lot. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or would like to learn more about OSI. You're muted, Suzanne.
Lips are moving, and I was just saying all these beautiful words of thanks. Thank you for everything, and for for helping make this project possible, and also for sharing a little bit about the OSI. It's really interesting to learn about the work that you're all doing. So thank you for coming this morning. All right, I think that's some of the introductions. We still have to hear from everyone else in the room, all of the folks who are going to also participate and do the field work. And so we wanted to quickly do a quick icebreaker. And if now I'm going to see if I can share something. We want to quickly ask people if you wouldn't mind dropping a note in the chat that says which of these images do you identify with? Now, just bear with me. Let me see if I can get to the images. This is you really have to bear with our sense of humor here. All right. Okay, I'm trying to find my images. Okay, I'm not getting them. Let's get this open. Da, 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 da. Okay. Oops, hang on a second. Sorry. This is what I want you to see. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we have, oh, some of it didn't translate. Anyway, we have image number 1 of a beach, image number 2 of a field, image number 3 of a forest, and image number 4 of, I'm not sure what we would call that, a rock sort of scaling, and then image number 5 of a city, and number 6 of some snowy mountains. In the chat, if you wouldn't mind dropping a note, which one of these speaks to you? Which one, if you had to be somewhere today, instead of this training, where would you want to be? And which one of these images? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, or number 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are also in the box, the Google Box folder. Let's see what people are saying. Kevin, I can't see the chat while I'm showing this. What are people saying?
We've got, well, I'm definitely a beach person. I'm just going to come out with that. Benjamin is a beach, Tumea is a beach person. We've got Diana Carter and Pam with number 3. Not a lot of comments, Suzanne, but lots of number 3s. We're looking at
lots of number 3s today.
Lots of 3s. Yeah, I'm in there as a 3.
You're in there as a 3?
I am indeed.
Well, going off of what Michaela said, you know, about the previous research with Public Space Research Group and OSI, you know, it was really that work at Jones Beach and Lake Welch that gave me my start as a grad student into becoming an applied researcher. And it also was caused me to fall in love with New York, both the city and in particular Jones Beach. So her words were well received by me, and I was very grateful to have been a part of that. I hope that all of the volunteers will have some kind of similar experience in finding that this whole endeavor can kind of lead to all kinds of other things. So that's why I'm always tied to the beach, Suzanne.
Great. So in a in a few minutes, when we after we talk a little bit about the project, we'll have a chance in some breakout groups. I'm going to turn this off so I can see everyone because I couldn't see comments, but we'll have a chance for people to introduce themselves a little bit more with more information, and you'll have a chance also to meet the leads and have more of a fuller introduction. But we wanted to just get people connecting a little bit, and it seems like the forest is the winner here as the place we'd rather be instead of on Zoom, and I don't blame you. So let's get started then. What we have planned today is we want to talk a little bit about what we're doing, how we're going to do it, and we're going to try to make it as interactive as possible by having two opportunities today. One break room before we actually take an actual break, and then we'll have another breakout room in the second half where we hope to be able to debrief and to talk and to really get to know each other, as getting to know each other is going to be really important in this work, being able to communicate effectively, being able to let us know what kind of help people need, what they're experiencing as you're trying to meet people and collect the data. We want to approach this as a sort of a collaborative process throughout our work this summer. In this training, we want to approach it collaboratively, and in our work this summer as well. And Kevin wanted to say a few words about the importance of being collaborative.
Sure. I think I'll cut it fairly short because we're probably running a little bit behind, but I just want to say once again, it's great to meet all of you. I'm really excited to be able to come to New York again and explore your beautiful state parks. The work we're taking on is really about engagement, right, with other people. And so this training is sort of designed to reflect that. And of course, our goal is to share with you all what we know today, with full acknowledgement that you all bring your own expertise and experience, as is very evident from some of the comments we've already heard. We were really thrilled to see in the results of the survey that many of you did, just how much experience folks actually have of data collection and survey tools and all of this. So in other words, we're trying to avoid too much of a top-down training today. It really is about collaboration and teaming. And we're definitely interested in learning from all of you. And we hope that you find today that we've created enough space in this training for that to happen, especially in the breakout rooms. So please, whether in this training or out in the field, we encourage you to share your knowledge with us and with each other. We hope that this kind of ethos of the project, if you will extend into the field. And that's to say, the goal is collaboration with each other and ultimately with park users, right? Whose engagement is crucial to the success of this research. So once again, thank you. Can't thank those volunteers enough. And I'm excited to be here. And finally, just another heads up, if anybody is having any sort of issue with accessing a Google Drive that gets sent for us to look at the interview instrument, the survey instrument later, please just send an email and we'll get you sorted out and get it to you in some other way. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dana Taplin to discuss a little bit about the scope of the project.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Okay. This is the goals of the study. I'm going to talk a little bit about the goals and the structure and what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to learn, and how we're going to go about doing it. Let's see. So we have the scope of the study is to survey all 12 regions of the state park system. And I can try to show a figure that we have of that. Let me see. Right. So this is perhaps a little, yeah. This particular figure has also has all the parks, and yeah, it has all the parks. So here's the, yeah, you can see they're all coded by color. But we have 2 parks in each region, Long Island, New York City. I think this is Taconic. And anyway, I don't need to name them all, but there are 12, and they just cover the whole state, except for the 2 forest preserves that are grayed out on this figure, which includes the Adirondacks and the Catskills, which are not technically part of the state park system, but of course everybody far and wide thinks of them as parks, and certainly they are parks. But New York State Parks covers all the other units in the system, and it's actually institutionally it's a separate system. The other thing I wanted to share is let's see if I can find it, is the list. Oh yeah, right. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, no, you can't. I'm going to see if I can, there it is. Okay. Right, so this is the list of the actual parks. And we have the Niagara region, we have Fort Niagara, and we have Buffalo Harbor. In the Allegheny region, the Allegheny State Park and Lake Erie State Park. In Genesee, we have Letchworth and Hamlin Beach. In the Finger Lakes, we have Tagonic Falls and Fairhaven Beach. Central New York, we have Green Lakes and Chenango Valley. In the Palisades region, Harriman and Bear Mountain and Rockland Lake. Long Island, we have the Robert Moses State Park, which is, a beach at the western end of Fire Island, and Hempstead Lake State Park. Thousand Islands region, we have Wellesley Island and Key Waden. In the Saratoga Capital region, we have Grafton Lakes and Thatcher. New York City, Shirley Chisholm on Jamaica Bay and Roberto Clemente. And in the Taconic region, Fahnestock and Franklin D. Roosevelt. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Stop share. Okay. Okay, now let's see if I can find my notes. Here we go. Okay, so I think the premise of the research is to discover why these places all matter, why they matter. The presumption is that they do. We're not asking really whether they matter, it's why, and we're trying to learn as much as we can about that. The parks in general are assumed to be good and worthwhile places, but maybe in some sense as places of nature, or predominantly places of nature, or so they seem to be. They're assumed to take care of themselves. But state parks and city parks are they're all developed and constructed spaces and much built. They have roads and paths, and the layout is all designed and constructed. They have facilities, the landscapes, everything about them need care. They also are, each one of them has an extensive programming. The activities that are offered, the activities and the services that need to be staffed, and they need to be publicized, they need maintenance, and they need the programs and the resources that the park offers need to be interpreted for the users. So there's a lot to it, and this research is going to help, certainly going to help inform the pulse of the parks, I should say the centennial observance, but it also just it gives park managers much more information about who the users are, the visitors as we call them, who they are, their preferences, their expectations, and how these things vary across age and gender and region and socioeconomic status and ethnic and cultural group, and a variety of different parameters. So we want to, this research is useful in informing park planners what the people do, what they want to do, and the difficulties they may have, or that they perceive that they have in doing the things that they want to do. And also by gathering information about the users, we can build recognition in the communities across the state and in the state's regions and in the legislature of the place that parks have in forming and building and sustaining strong communities. Because, you know, I mean, I think that one of the things that came out of the COVID shutdown was the recognition that, you know, these public spaces are really quite important, and of course more people made use of them because there were so many things they couldn't do. But it kind of brought out the idea that people need these places, that they're really necessary and that they're important, that they and we want to sort of, as I was saying earlier, they're kind of assumed to be good, valuable places, but we want to build a case for showing and explaining and documenting why that is the case, you know, why they are important. And that's part of what we're about here. So the research questions that we're going to be asking include who goes to the parks, how do the visitors, the users use the parks. I think visitors, by the way, is a term that is, you know, it's pretty widely used. It kind of implies that these users are, you know, visiting as if they, you know, they didn't really live there. And of course they don't technically live there, but we do want to stress, I think, and bring out the idea that visitors is a little bit of a superficial term in the sense that these are, you know, these parks are really, I don't know what to say, but they're important places in the sense of people inhabiting them, and they're being necessary to people's identities. You know, a mere visit kind of doesn't quite convey the importance of some of these places to people. All right, so so back to the questions. How do visitors evaluate the services and the programs that the parks are offering? And what do the parks mean to visitors culturally, socially, and as public spaces? So we have actually two research instruments, as we call them, there, and two types of methods. So one of them is the survey, and the other is the ethnographic interview. So the survey is composed of a series of questions about, let's see. I have a copy here, which I'm going to, right. So we get to indicate on the survey, the park where we're working, the visitor, whether it's the first time or whether they come once a week or several times a month, and how, you know, their visit patterns, the season in which they, of course, they're there now in the summertime, but we would like to know whether they come at any other time of the year. And another question is, whether do you usually visit weekends or weekdays, or visitation patterns are important to find out. And another question is the times of the day, and then what's the group? Did the person come alone? Did they come with family members or groups or co-workers, or what is the kind of the social unit of the visit? And how many people are they with? And how long have they been coming? Have they been coming is this the first time? Is it just a year or two? 20 years? Is this a lifelong thing? So we're going to sort of learn a lot about the users in terms of where they come from, how long they've been coming, when they come, what they do. And that's the next question, is what they do. Are they walking, strolling, jogging, biking, picnicking, etc.? We have a lot of choices, and you know, they're all questions that you can check off. The visitor evaluation of the park is a section of the survey where people are asked about the staff and the cleanliness and of the services, the conditions, the usefulness of the signage, safety and security, whether people feel welcome. And then there's a question about asking people what they would do to improve the facilities and the services. And that also is a list of, you as the interviewer would check off what people say. You don't have to, it isn't an open-ended question in the sense of people getting to just talk. Instead, it's a selection of, what would you call it? Anyway, it's a list of options to select. And yes, improvement. And then let's see. All right. Anyway, so those are most of the questions, and I think you'll have. Okay, so this is page 5. I see. All right, and then the demographic part of which is age and level of education and whether a person is a veteran and their zip code of residence and whether they're U.S. or not from the U.S. and what language they speak at home and how people identify in terms of race or ethnicity, and whether they have any mobility or physical limitations that would that they would have to navigate in visiting the park or making use of the park, and how they identify in terms of gender. So that is the basic. That's the content of the demographic survey. We also have an ethnographic survey. The demographic survey will be conducted by you all. That's the idea, is that you're going to be asking all these questions of people. And the ethnographic survey, which is more it has some of the same questions, but has more open-ended questions in which people have the chance to talk a little bit about their experience and the meanings the park has for them, the memories that if they have memories of that they connect with this particular park. And those are, by the way, the idea of an ethnographic angle on the park is not so much just their demographic background and their preferences and so on, but it's more to get into the value of the park as the value the park plays in people's lives and in the lives of their communities and the groups that they affiliate with and identify with, and to what extent is the park part of the identity of the people we're talking to. So the ethnographic survey or ethnographic instrument is trying to get at that. So the ethnographic survey or ethnographic interviews will be conducted by the team leaders, by us, Suzanne and Kevin and Nathan and myself and Setha. So, right. So how to do the survey, the modalities, so to speak. We have, I'm going to try to get back to my screen here. Yes, we have, we're going to, this being 2023, we're going to be using an online platform, which is, what is it called? It's called
Qualtrics.
Qualtrics, right? There's SurveyMonkey, there are various ones, but we're going to use Qualtrics. And it's going to be connected to either people's phones, and we're also planning to rent iPads in case that works. So there will be an opportunity to administer the survey, which is to say, to talk to someone, ask them the questions, and record the answers on the screen. The other way which is the more tried and true way, is to do it with paper and clipboards. So we will have for you all of these survey blank forms and clipboards, and you can use those to record all the responses. And we, the team leaders, would then take the printed, the paper forms completed and enter them into the online system at the end of the day. So either way, it would work. And of course, there could be connectivity issues in some of these parks, where it would be difficult to do it otherwise. But we have the two options, and then a third option is to try to do it by means of a QR code, where someone has the opportunity to respond later, like to take the form, take a photo of the QR code that's on a placard or something, and then complete the survey later. That we really we're thinking of that as a last resort for the most part, because of course the chances of someone completing the survey go down pretty quickly if they walk away without having done it. But in some cases it might be, in other cases it might be the only way to do it, which is that if the respondent has a language that speaks, if their primary language is not the one that the interviewer has the chance of is fluent in, then they could take a version. They could click on use the QR code to access a version of the survey that's in their own language and then complete it that way. So that would be one way in which the QR code would not be a last resort. But in many cases, we'd prefer to have you be doing the survey in real time with the people and completing the questions. Right. So the work, the deployment, the deployment of the research teams will be beginning in the mid-July and continuing into August. We have tried to the best we can with Patrick's help to set up teams that will cover all the parks. Each of us will be one of us will be on the ground in each one and have a chance to meet with you at the beginning and to of course meet with the park manager and to get a little bit oriented in the park and then figure out where to set up. And we'll be doing some of that advanced planning anyway. But the idea is to try to use in each park 2 days, either a Friday and a Saturday or a Sunday and a Monday, to try to complete as many surveys as we can. And the target is between 30 and 40 per at least 30 surveys per day per person. So you as a surveyor would try to complete at least 30 surveys per day, and that would give the State Parks Agency the sufficient number of completed surveys to have at least, we'd like at least 100 in each park, and in some parks 150 to 200, and that because statistically you need enough data to make it statistically representative of the user population and be able to say something with some confidence, with a reasonable degree of confidence, that your sample of the population is actually representative. So the methodology for doing that is also basically to try to approach every fifth person. So rather than just approaching people who look friendly or people who you think you'd be able to talk to easily, to try to be systematic about it and to approach to not approach the second and the third and the fourth, but to go for the fifth and see what happens. And I think we have more material and more discussion later either in this orientation or the next one about the process of doing that and how that works. But that's the general idea, as to make this a systematic procedure. And we're going to have a couple of different platforms for keeping track of resources. One of them is on Trello, which is a system that you'll all be able to access should you want to see the materials and the information about the pulse of the parks, the centennial, and information from us about what we're doing and what we've already gathered, and then to use also Slack, the Slack platform for communications. So I don't know. I think that covers what I wanted to say about the. Oh, yes, and the access to the Trello site will be forthcoming.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's a pretty broad overview of sort of the structure of the study and some of the things that that we're going to need to keep in mind in terms of our approach. So there'll be lots of reminders about all of these things. So don't worry if if it seemed like a lot of information about how we're going to go about doing this. Does anyone have a quick question that they want to ask before we move on to the next section? Anything anyone wants to ask or comment on or share? So, I can't see. Okay. So we'll go in, we're going to talk more specifically about the survey instrument a little bit later, but what we'd like to do right now is have a chance. Patty is mentioning that at Hamlin Beach, the access is very poor, the internet. Right. That's one thing is I think we are going to rely on you all for this kind of feedback because we have no idea what the access is going to be like. And this is why we're preparing multiple forms of modalities to collect this information. I mean, the most reliable is actually going with a paper and clipboard and doing the survey right there and then with people. We are thinking that if there is good connectivity, it could be possible to do this, as Dana was saying, on a cell phone or on an iPad, and we'll have those devices available because the data would go right into the database that we're going to be using to work with it. But I think we'll always have paper and pen because we have no way of knowing, even on a good day, whether connectivity will, be reliable. So we'll have that. We'll have different options, whatever works best for you, but also for that day in terms of the conditions. So we'll have to talk a little bit about, how to actually manage these things. Sometimes it's easier to approach someone with a clipboard, but also showing up with a clipboard sends a certain message, and we'll talk about, what options or devices we use and how they affect the responses or the visitors and their participation.
Suzanne, can I add something here?
Of course, jump in.
Sure, just want to say that was a great comment, Patty. Thank you. And if anybody else has some really intimate knowledge of these other parks, if you don't want to chime in now, please do email us and let us know about these sorts of issues. These are the types of things that we really want to start tracking early. So that's just well received. Thank you.
Terrific. And Wolfram is saying, I just figured out how to send messages. Okay. Okay. Anyone else have another comment or something they want to add or update or share? So if not, then the next thing that we'd like to do is we'd actually like to learn a little bit more about how you feel about doing this. And we want to really acknowledge that it's not so easy. It seems kind of easy to ask people, approach them and, extract information, but it's actually kind of challenging. And our instrument has a lot of different dimensions to it. It might be hard to get through. But just that moment of meeting people can be really, anxiety producing. Is this going to go well? Or is anyone going to talk to me? Am I going to be able to actually, collect data from 30 people? We'd like to have a conversation about that. And I also want to acknowledge and thank everyone for filling out the questionnaire in Module 0, because what we learned is that we have our group collectively has a broad range of experience. Some folks have a lot of experience doing this, and I think that's really wonderful because we really want to hear from folks who've done it before and to learn from each other. Others, about half of the folks also have never done this before and may have a lot of questions. And so we want to be able to share and talk about what it's going to be like to do this experience. So in just a minute, we're going to go to a breakout room to have a conversation about this, but Patty is asking, will we have some type of official uniform? And we've been talking about this. How are we going to show that we are doing something special? And we are looking into it. So with some kind of badge, I think we might wear, a lanyard. We're not sure yet, but we'll have something that will symbolize that we're doing a particular activity and that visitors will recognize that, you know, who we are, and we'll have some kind of tag or label on a badge of some sort. So yes, Patty, that's a yes. But more information on how we're going to signify our role is forthcoming. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? That's a really good question to ask. Any other comments? Okay, if not, then we're going to surf off into 3 breakout rooms, and we're hoping that these breakout rooms will be organized a little bit with the folks who will be working with each of the leads. So Kevin is working in a certain set of parks, and I hope that in the breakout rooms with Olive's help, yes, Olive's giving me the thumbs up, that the folks who will be working with Kevin will be in that breakout room, plus a few others. And folks who will be working with Dana in the parks that he'll be taking the lead on will be hopefully in that breakout room, and other folks who I'm working with, hopefully I'll get a chance to meet you now. Patty is also asking, will we be in partners? And that's a very good question, Patty. I hope that we will have partners out there. I hope this will be a team effort. We have to see how many volunteers we have. I think in some parks we do have, in many parks we have 2 or more people, but in some of the parks that we're doing this, we only have 1 volunteer. I don't know, Patrick, do you want to say anything or address that question?
Yeah, I think there's the question of Patty, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if you're asking if if folks are going to be going out and surveying people individually, or if there will be like teams of people at each site. We've been working really diligently to make sure that there's at least 2 volunteers every site, and I think that we'll have that. If there are more than enough people, I think going up and approaching folks together is an okay strategy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Suzanne. But in order to like make the goal for the number of surveys, it might help if even if there are like 2 or 3 people in a team, maybe, you know, divide and conquer space so that everybody can approach as many folks as possible. Does that sound right, Suzanne, at least in terms of, you know, the number of folks at a site, as well as how to make sure that you're surveying enough people?
Yeah, I think that's right. We're going to really need to do the best that we can individually to collect a minimum of 30 to 35 interviews. And depending on the park and its, you know, its design and the number of entrance points, that's another issue is, you know, how many volunteers do we have? How many major, you know, entrance points do we have? And again, this is something that we're going to have to be in touch with the experts, the folks who work in the parks, everyone here today to collectively make those decisions about what works best so that we can meet this goal. So we'll have to see. And hopefully there'll be, you know, we'll have like a base where a bunch of us can fan out, but that we'll be in touch with each other throughout the day.
Yeah, if I could just add, Suzanne, like nobody's going out there totally alone. You know, there's at least a lead researcher and then a couple other folks to do the demographic surveys. So this is definitely a group effort, and we're not sending people off to, you know, to do this on their own by any means.
Thanks.
That's right. That's right. And if the question is with regard to safety and security. I just want to cannot overstate that we don't want to put you into any situation in which you don't feel comfortable. So, all of the leads will be available, and, we'll have frequent check-ins to make sure that everything's going well and that the safety and security of all of the volunteers is intact.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. That's great. And Patty, thanks for your question. That's really helpful. Okay. Olive, can you please send us off into the remember, this is an adventure. So let's see how it works. Okay. Oh, I go here. Okay.
You're on mute, Suzanne.
Hello. I made it.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. So let's kind of go around, since we have more of a chance for people to introduce themselves now, so that we have a smaller group. Can we go around and hear what park you're working in and why you wanted to participate in this, I guess, is a good question. Michael, you're on the top. I'm just going to randomly call people. Oh, do you know how to do popcorn? Do you know what that is? Okay, popcorn is, so let's say I call on Michael Boyle, and he's going to introduce himself and tell us why he's why he wanted to participate in this, what park he's working at. Then Michael, when you're finished talking and sharing, you choose somebody else, and then we just kind of popcorn around until we cover everyone. Go for it.
Unmute. Seems like he's having technical difficulties.
Let's we'll come back to Michael. Michael, we'll be right back to you. Diana, we heard from Diana. Do you want to say anything else and then popcorn to someone?
Sure. I'll just say thanks again for helping everyone. I'm actually volunteering to survey down at Franklin D. Roosevelt State Park in Westchester County. Part of the reason why I chose that park is, number one, I'm available at that time. But number two, I've actually not been to this park yet. I've done a lot of reading about it. I've provided a lot of grant money to FDR through the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So I'm really excited to, number one, see the Harry Potter in the park, the Forbidden Forest walking area. And I'm also excited to see the new swimming pool that was just recently renovated. So yeah, I think I'm going to hand it off to someone I don't know. That would be Abby Cullen.
Hi everyone, my name's Abby. I'm gonna be at Fort Niagara. I'm currently a grad student at Syracuse University. I'm going for museum studies. And I'm interning at Old Fort Niagara this summer. I grew up in the area, so I'm just really excited to kind of dive deeper into a park that I've done so much with, from soccer to enjoying the history of it. I'm just really excited to learn more about it. And then the next name for me is Renee, so I'll call in Renee.
Renee is saying she doesn't have access to a microphone. Can you tell us what park you're working in? Okay, well, okay, Robert Moses. Oh, great, great. Okay. Let's, Renee, anything else you want to share? Type it in the box as we popcorn over to Addison.
Hi, I'm Addison and I work out of the Albany office and I'll be volunteering at a lot of different sites over the summer and I'm excited to get to see new parks and new places I haven't been before.
Popcorn to someone?
I'll go to Kellen.
Hi, I'm Kellen. I work at the Central Albany office, and I'm going to be volunteering at Green Lakes, Lake Erie, Robert Moses, and a couple others, I believe. And I'm excited to get a chance to see more parks since I'm from out of state and learn about the people who go there. I'll popcorn to Daniel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. I work in the Albany office. I'm going to be working at Harriman in July. It's a big park, a lot of diverse uses, a lot of diverse people. So I'm excited to see how use is going on there. Right, popcorn. I'll go to Mackenzie.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I also work out of Albany, but I live at Thatcher State Park as a SCA intern. I'm originally from Virginia, so I'm excited to see. I'll be surveying at Fort Niagara, Lake Erie, Thatcher, of course, and then also Harriman. So I'm excited just to be on the other side of the state and see things there and just learn about how people are using the parks here and why they do so. Very interesting to see what people feel about New York parks. And then I'll popcorn to Chris.
I am Chris Pelosi. I'm an environmental analyst out of the Albany office for parks. I cover the New York City region and assist in the Palisades and Taconic region. So I'll be volunteering for Shirley Chisholm and Harriman. And I'm just interested to see how projects that we review in Albany impact the parks and how users kind of interact with those projects and how they enjoy them. So let's go to the TOEC educators.
Hi, yeah, so we are a bunch of us here. It's Liam speaking. We also have Jeannie, Kerry, Ren, and Nicole. So we are at the Taconic Outdoor Education Center in the Taconic region. We will be volunteering at FDR and Fonstock State Parks. So yeah, we're excited. We are a reservation only facility, so I think we're looking forward to getting out and seeing some of the public and seeing who is using our regional parks. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Right.
I think most of us have gone, so I see Wolf M. Maybe we'll hop over there.
Hi.
Hello.
You ever hear me?
Yep.
This is Wolfman John Kietrowski from Letchford State Park. And the reason I'm interested in doing the survey is that I tried conducting a survey of my own for the park for our friends group to what merchandise people were interested in. And that was didn't really work so well. So I'm more interested in how to do it. Also took statistics and did a survey ourselves. We held a survey where we needed 100 people to make it a valid survey, which previous speaker I spoke about the validity of this, how many people we need to have the validated accurate survey. So I did that. And I was also a social work major. I have a BS in social work. So thank you.
Terrific. Let's see. Erin, did we hear from Erin?
Hi, so my name's Erin. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So my name's Erin. I'm an environmental educator over at Hempstead Lake State Park. I'm also here with our summer team. So we have 2 interns, Olivia and Cameron, and then we have our new hire over here. Her name's Alicia. We're all going to be volunteering here at Hempstead Lake. And we haven't really done anything like this yet, but we're super excited to be involved.
Terrific. Great. Then back to you, Michael.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. It worked. I'm old school and I have no extra technology abilities, folks. So bear with me. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike. I work at Shenango Valley State Park. I've done a number of these over the years in my career at state parks, probably at least a half a dozen or better, depending upon what the survey was. Looking forward to this one. The one comment I would like to say about these is I noticed through the visitor use and demographic survey, I noticed right off the bat that in my particular facility, and I'm thinking probably is the same in many others, that depending upon where we set up, we're going to get different user groups. So, I mean, I can skew this survey quite a bit based on where I do go or where I don't go in my facility. So it's just something to note. I think that again, if I'm at the beach area, I'm going to hit majority of folks that are family oriented and bring multiple people to the park. Whereas I go to another more secluded parking space or parking lot, I may just get the one, the mountain bike user who comes regularly on their own. So it's just gonna, I'm hoping that we can find a happy medium in the park and go to multiple locations to do our surveys and to get the results. So that's all I got to say. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking very much forward to it, Suzanne.
Thanks. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and I'll follow up with you if you don't mind, because I think we do need to know that information. I think you're absolutely right. We need to be in different locations to hear from different types of park users. So I'm glad you're, mentioning that, and we'll have to see if we can find out those sorts of things from all of the parks. Diana, that's just something that's a question we need to kind of answer for all 22 parks, actually. So let me open it up for discussion here. At some point, I think our Zoom room is automatically going to dump us back into the main room. So I just want to give you a heads up if you're mid-sentence and all of a sudden you're in another room. I guess a couple of things I wanted to hear from. I mean, people have already made some interesting comments about, knowing stuff about doing surveys, not knowing at all how to do a survey, never having done it before. What kinds of questions do people have? Are people anxious about this? Wolf, I think, can we call you Wolf? Is that how we should address you, Wolf M? I'm wondering, you had a great comment about wanting to know more about doing surveys, and that one that you tried didn't go the way you expected.
Yeah,
I
this
wonder
Wolfman. Yeah, Wolfman's good.
Wolfman's good. Okay, thank you. Can you say a little bit more about what didn't go the way you expected when you did a survey?
Well, I did the survey. I went online to one of the survey rooms where you could have your survey sent to. And what I found out is that with a park that large, trying to get enough people to send a survey to that chat room or whatever you want to call it, it was very difficult because it's so spread out. We have foreign visitors, we have local visitors. So to get a survey out to the correct number of people, it was very difficult. I found I only had like 10 responses. And that's my problem, was not enough responses.
I see. I think, yeah, I mean, that can be an issue. People are coming to a park to, to do what they want to do, to recreate, right? To meet with friends, to swim, to bike, and probably not to do a survey. So there takes some take some persuading of people to stop and give us, 5 minutes or so to answer the questions, which is why there's some technique to it. But that's sort of an issue, is it's not easy to get people to make the time to interact with us. There's a lot of rejection, actually. And that can even affect us personally in terms of like how hard we can try, if we're constantly getting, no, I've got to, I can't answer this now. It can be discouraging and hard to keep going. Oh my gosh, the time is up already. I really keep breakout rooms open. Oh, I can press it open. Okay, I was able to keep it open. So how about some others who've done surveys? What kinds of experiences have you had? What what have been your experiences? Positive, negative, surprising? What can you share with the group?
Well, in my experience, weather has a lot to do with how you're going to be able to collect a sufficient sample size. I had to perform a survey outdoors at a public park, and they were interview surveys, and they had experienced like a week's worth of rain prior to this event. And so the conditions of the facility were not really advantageous to doing surveys. They had to put straw down on grass areas where people congregate. It was very muddy and uncomfortable, and not a lot of people showed up. So it was hard to get a good sample size. So there were no rain dates for this event, so it was going on rain or shine. But in this particular survey effort, what do we do if our survey days are not good park attendance days?
That is a very good question. That's a good question. Answers, suggestions? I mean, it's a good question. I think we have to see how far we get, like, for example, if we have a day where we get started, but then it starts to rain, we would have to see if maybe we could return maybe to the park and see if we could do another half day or something. Or we can see if how much we can collect using the QR codes, if that's possible. I don't have a lot of, I don't have a lot of hope that we'll collect a lot of data with QR codes. I mean, I think people might fill out surveys, but you still need someone to persuade them to do it. Just putting a QR code doesn't mean people are actually going to, activate and do the survey. So I think we're going to have to see what's going to be possible, because another issue is, the availability of the field researchers and the teams and stuff like that.
Right.
What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about what, if it rains a lot, that's going to be a huge problem for sure.
Right. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It definitely affected my sample size. And you kind of do what you can when you're analyzing the data. I wasn't able to do a makeup date because the event was taking place during a certain period of time. But one option might be is to have those paper surveys with a return address on them, so that they could be mailed back. If we could leave them at the park office, and they could be handed out at a collection booth or a parking lot, or where people congregate, something along those lines. It's more about distribution of the survey. You know, and that if you do that, then you have to put a like deadline on when you're going to accept the surveys.
Mm-hmm. Right. They also, mailing back implies postage.
Right.
As well. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes they don't mail them back to the address that you ask them to. So,
Then what?
yeah, right.
Where do they mail them?
They'll mail them to a regional office, they'll
I
mail them
see.
to the Park office, they'll mail them to the Albany office.
Oh, man.
It depends. And what I find with mailback surveys is usually it's somebody who has something to complain about.
I see. People don't go out of their way to tell you all these wonderful things.
Exactly. They're going to tell you what happened that was horrible and what they didn't like about their visit that day.
Right. Oh, dear. Well, I think that we can work up some contingency plans, but we can also kind of understand that none of them are going to be as good as, you know, collecting data on a sunny day when there are people there, which, you know, is something for us to collectively, all of us, to just recognize when we're there and it's a good day, that is really meaningful.
Right.
And that, you know, we kind of have to try to do the best to make the, you know, the best use of our time, because we may not have another chance.
So as survey takers, do you want us to make observational notes about, you know, what the weather is, what time of day, what location in the park we took the survey?
So I think that's a really good question. We wanted to make the survey as closed as possible because it's a long survey. It's longer than most. In our previous study at Jones Beach and Walkway, you know, we did just the demographic portion and one or two other questions, and which is why in some cases we collected over 300 surveys, because it just went really quickly because we were asking so few questions. We were just trying to know who comes to the park. But the instrument we're using this summer has, you know, answers the question, who comes to the park and how do they evaluate the park and what do they do at the park? What are their use patterns? It's kind of long. It's a long thing. So we tried to eliminate as many open-ended things. So in light of what Mike is saying, I think we should definitely add a note as to where the position, you know, in the park. So of course we want to know what park, what time of day this is doing. Although time of day, if we're doing it electronically, it'll be time stamped anyway.
Right.
So some things will, you know, will be automatic, you know, but I think we should add a question or a note about, you know, where you are in the park. But after that, I think, as I'm going to talk about later on after our break, the instrument has just only one open-ended question, which is about improvements. And this is because it's going to be difficult to have the ability to write, you know, to answer open-ended questions. The interviewer will really already has a lot to manage.
Addison just asked, how long does it take to complete the survey?
I think it'll take probably maybe 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah, and anything more than that, I think, is you're pushing the patience of the interviewee or the survey, you know, your surveyee or whatever we call them. So that that can be like, oh, I don't want to lose my group kind of thing. Can we do this later? And, you know, those are the kinds of rejections that you're going to get. But oh, I had another comment or question. And it has escaped my head. Oh, I think Dana talked about this briefly, but how do we select our, the person that we're going to approach? Is it like count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh, I'm going to ask you, that kind of thing?
Yes, yeah. It is random. So, and that's what we were playing around with. Every fifth person,
Okay.
we would ask and see. Remember, we are also doing this we're also using this other instrument. Everyone here is just doing this survey, but the leads are also going to be using a similar type of instrument, but that one is more open-ended, and the leads will try to find the different populations that we want to hear from, so that we can make sure that we have insights from men, from women, from others, from
different ethnic groups. Yeah.
Exactly. Different constituents that come to the park for different reasons. So there is an opportunity to collect some information in a less random way. But yeah, that's the best that we can do to kind of, be objective about it.
Yeah, that it's one way to remove interviewer bias. Like we used to have an interviewer in one of our parks who liked to approach 20-something women, and that's all that he used to interview. So he introduced his own type of
You just turned red.
bias.
I see. As if the park was populated merely by
20-something women. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that to park visitors either.
Right.
There's some ethical concerns about that, pretending to be objective when there's some other agenda going on there.
Right.
Thanks for mentioning that. We're going to go back to the big room, because I think in 1 or 2 minutes, I think, because we really need a break, right? I imagine you all need like a bathroom break or water or something, snack or something like that. Does this, I don't know if it goes back automatically. Do we go back automatically? Okay, it's going to happen manually in just a second. Does anyone else want to share anything? Any concerns, or especially from folks who are going to be doing this the first time? Not that I probably have a need for this, but are there printed surveys in different languages? Thanks for asking that. We're endeavoring to translate the instrument in different languages and have it available on different QR codes. And so even though if we don't speak those languages, we could encourage people to take the survey if they can. So yes, the answer to that is yes, although I don't know how many different languages. So far, we have someone who's going to translate it in Russian for us, in Spanish, in Arabic so far, and we're also looking for Mandarin or Cantonese. We're pretty sure we can get someone to do in that. And
I think we have 2 people who speak Mandarin in the Albany office.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do you think they might be able to translate it?
Could be. Yep.
Okay, I will touch base with you. Does anyone here speak other languages? That's something we forgot to ask on the Getting to Know You survey. Do people have the possibility of doing this in another language? Spanish, perhaps?
Not in this room, it doesn't look like.
That's okay. The leads on the project, 3 out of 4 of the leads on the project from the public space research group speak Spanish and can approach Spanish speakers. So that we'll at least have Spanish on hand.
Mhm.
So that'll be good. But that's how we're hoping to handle that. Okay, yes, Hempstead Lake would benefit from having a Spanish survey or a translator. Erin, thanks for saying that. I'm going to make a note of that. Yeah.
I think I had one person sign up from Albany who is proficient in Spanish. And who selected Hempstead as their park.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. And whenever you're ready, everybody is able to return to the main session. Okay, I think we'll go back to the main room because I know we need a break. But thank you very much for introducing yourselves and going on this journey. Here we go, back to the main room. Olive, you're sending us back? Okay, here we go. All right, welcome back. Are we all back? Just Dana's not back yet. Dana and his crew. Okay, Dana's coming back. All right. Let's wait for Dana and then I'll just say one thing and then we'll take a break because we need a break. For us in California, it's 7:40. We got to our office at 5 this morning. Got to see the sunrise, which was really nice. All right, I don't know where, oh, here they come, here they. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're gonna take a break in just 1 minute. We're gonna take a 15-minute break. I just wanted to quickly see if anyone wanted to share very quickly some outcomes from their discussion. I know we had an interesting discussion about language, doing the interview in language, about concerns about not being able to get interviews due to inclement weather. I'm wondering what other topics were brought up in the breakout rooms. Kevin, do you want to say a little bit about what happened in your group?
You mean in the best room?
In the best room?
Yeah. Yes, it was really a fruitful conversation, and I'm really grateful to have met everybody. And we also talked about some of the challenges that folks have encountered when they have gone out and collected survey data. We have a wonderful park manager who has also expressed concerns about what it will feel like to go and talk to people who are there just to enjoy their day after they've driven a minute and they're getting there and they're unpacking. And I shared some of the reflections from doing that in the parking lot at Jones Beach for 8 hours straight and never getting to the water. No, we had some great conversation there. We also got onto the topic a little bit of incentives, right? And I know that's not the topic of this today, but some really great ideas. And there is a pretty cool sticker for the Ranger program that one of our participants shared and that I think would be something to think with. So I'll talk to you about that. And we also learned that Thatcher State Park is misspelled on our survey. There's a T at the end that doesn't belong there. So thank you to the folks who pointed that out. But overall, a very fruitful discussion, and I think we got to know each other pretty well.
Great. Thank you. Dana, a quick summary before we take off for break. You're on mute. You're muted.
We also had some conversation about language. So For example, at Hempstead Lake, Kate, the manager there, said that the primary user constituency is Spanish speaking, or I believe that's what she said. They also have a substantial Russian speaking population. So there was some discussion of being prepared for that, for the diversity of languages spoken around the different parts of the state, and how to meet that challenge, and the importance of being able to do it. Another useful, I thought, the useful thing that came up was the question of getting, sort of covering the different areas within a park, because some of them, quite a few of them are complicated sites. And this was in connection with the Robert Moses Park, but there are many others that have various locations within them that serve somewhat different constituencies. So we were talking about trying to anticipate that and to deploy people and how to move people around and do things in a way that will not just get people who are at the beach or people who are, doing one particular activity. And another thing that I thought was interesting and useful was to begin to think about how to set up so that you'll feel like you have the best shot at getting people to talk. I mean, some people in the downstate area feel as though people on Long Island and in the 5 boroughs of New York City are more willing to give you the brush off and walk right past you, and less willing to engage in conversation. And while that may or may not be true, depending on who it is, it certainly was interesting to hear about thoughts about like setting up a table and making kind of an attractive thing with maybe some offers or some gear or something to make it seem like you're not just being bothered by somebody trying to ask you questions.
Yeah, great.
And thanks to everyone in my group for offering up those ideas.
It's great. Great. Well, it sounds like there was a lot of a really good brainstorming about how to do this, how to best collect the data. So this is really good, and it sounds like people are really understanding how it's going to be. It's going to be a thing to try to collect the data from people as they come to the park with different objectives. Well, I've made a note of that stuff. I think we deserve a break. Everybody probably needs a break. Let's take a 15-minute break and we'll come back at 11 and we'll try to make the second part as short as possible so people can get going with the rest of their day. So see you in 15.
Wonderful. Nice.
All right. Are folks back? Are we live? Let's see. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Great. All right. Well, let's get going, and so that we can wrap up before lunch here. So in this next section, we want to talk about the instrument with a little bit more in-depth focus. I'm going to put the instrument on the shared screen. But what I'd like for people to do is just right at this moment, you can also access it in our shared Google folder, I hope. And what I'd like for folks to do is just take 2 minutes to read through the instrument quietly to yourself, but at the same time, make some notes for yourself about any questions you have, anything you find compelling about the instrument, any concerns you have about it, any kind of reaction that you have to it. So let's just take just a few minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read through and make a few notes about the instrument. Are we good? All right, I'll put it up here. I'm not sure if everybody can. I don't know if it's not helpful for me to put it up here if you can't really. Actually, I'd rather actually you read on your own. Does anyone have any difficulties accessing it in the Google folder? Can we help you with that? We're good? Okay. Okay, I'm going to type the instructions here. So okay, Patty doesn't have access. Let's see. Patty, can you put your email? Any chance you can give me? Can you drop the Google file link here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's what I can do. Okay. Let me put it here. We'll just take one more minute to take a look at the survey. Making any notes about anything that's compelling. Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you to just hold on to those questions for a few minutes. When we get into breakout rooms, we're going to talk about those questions. And what I want to do right now is just kind of walk us through the survey. I know Dana gave us a bit of an overview, but I want to make some other comments about some of the features in the survey. So let me see if I can find it. All right. Are you able to see it on the shared screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay. So one question that surfaced earlier is how long will it take to administer the survey? And that's something that we're going to come to terms with as we practice this. We're hoping it, usually anything that's longer than 10 minutes is difficult for visitors. So we are hoping it will fit within, under 10 minutes. And another thing I want to say about doing these things is that the more one practices, the more you develop your own style and you pick up speed. But I also want to say that the goal is not to be so speedy as to, just run through this and make visitors feel like they're being, bulldozed by a questionnaire. I mean, we don't want to go that fast, so we do want to sort of do it at a pace that makes people comfortable, yourself and the visitor who's participating. So we already in today's meeting got some very helpful feedback about the instrument that we probably need to add something here. We want to start the first portion is information that helps us know who's doing the interview and where are they doing it. And I think that it's been suggested that we may need to add some more information about where in the park one is collecting some of this information, as it seems to matter in some parks, whether we're collecting information closer to a beach or closer to trails, we're going to find different kinds of people in those places. So we'll probably have to add a question here for the field researcher to make a note of where they are in the park when they're doing this. We'll probably also have to add something about time. If we're doing the interview on an iPad or an electronic device, it will be time-stamped. And so we were hoping to save and eliminate a question by doing it that way. However, if we're doing it on paper, we probably do need to add a question to note the time. So there's some things that we need to, that the interviewer surveyor needs to note in order for us to understand where and when this data was collected. So as Dana was saying earlier, the survey is broken up into 3 parts. One of them looks at visitor use patterns. The second part looks at visitors' evaluations of their evaluation of the park. And the third part looks at who is the visitor, their some demographic questions. So we kind of feel like these three things are really important to capture. I know the park is parks are very interested in getting the feedback from folks in terms of, how are our services being delivered? Are they coming across? Are people satisfied? Those sets of questions are really important, but we want to understand, well, who is giving these kinds of opinions? So we feel that visitor use patterns are really important to contextualize people's answers. But also visitor use is also really important for, for parks in terms of making decisions about the extent to which, the park is being used in the patterns, when people are using it. So we have a bunch of questions, as Dana was saying before, that kind of help us to understand patterns in people's use, the time of the day that they come, the season that they come, and whether it's a weekday or a weekend that they're coming. And these questions, I think, also help us to understand or put into context people's attachments to the park. We were thinking a lot, or can we do without some of these questions? Which ones, if so, would we eliminate? And we had a hard time eliminating any of them, because we felt like it's important to know if people come here often, or if they come here on a routine basis. Is this a regular? Is this somebody who, as Dana was saying before, the park is a part of their lives. We can develop an understanding of just how deep a connection people have by gathering this information about their patterns of use. So we have a number of questions that we're asking about time, season, day of the week, etc. And some of the
Suzanne?
yes.
So another Suzanne is asking if it's a family group, can we ask them individually or as a unit?
So that's a very good question, because you can ask people together, but you would need to fill out either right immediately after another survey form, because we want to sort of have a certain count, right? We want to be able to collect 30 interviews, but we need all of the information for each individual. And what happens often interviewing people in pairs or in a group is that we collect some of the information from some individuals in the group, other pieces of information from others in the group, and then it's sort of uneven. It's kind of difficult to collect all of the information from everyone in the group. So it
because
can
people speak, they interrupt each other, just as I'm doing now, and talk about, so you get one answer from somebody and another different answer from someone else. So you have to kind of fill out the survey forms right afterwards to keep it clear.
Exactly.
As much as possible.
Exactly.
But it is an efficient way of getting 2 or 3 surveys out of one experience.
Right. But especially when you're asking about people's views on park services, you can't really assume that, well, one person is saying they really dislike this or that, or really like this or that everyone, in the group who you're trying to capture, it feels the same way about it. So, I mean, it's really important to find out, what individuals think, and to kind of, to fill out the survey for each individual. That said, it's possible to take one survey in paper form and make notes on the side. Individual 1 in the group said this, this, and that. Individual 2 said this, this, and that. And then after the group departs, grab some more paper surveys and fill out the answers, and do it that way. But I think doing this, it's also really important to capture, at the very least, the demographic information. So there's 3 parts, and all of them are really important. But without the demographic information, if you have some information about people's opinions, but we don't know if it's from, who it's from, then, then it's hard to make use of partial data in that case.
Right. Yeah.
I hope that answered the question and that wasn't too confusing an answer. There's a question here about whether we give the form to them to fill out or read the survey. That's a really good question. You can give the form to fill out, but you can give it to someone to fill out. Definitely, you can do that. I think it's important to make sure that they fill it out. I recently did a survey at a museum, and it turned out that, folks didn't realize that there was a backside to the questionnaire, and we only got answers on the front page, and there was a lot of people coming and going, and there were a lot of people filling things out and others who were being asked, and it got really busy and really confusing, and we didn't actually collect the necessary data because the folks, the visitors who filled things out didn't quite fill them out completely enough. So that would be something to kind of oversee if you do that. But if someone would like, if a visitor would like to fill out their own survey, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, why would we stop them? They want to participate. Kevin?
Sometimes though, that's challenged by the fact that they're carrying everything and you're often walking alongside of them just to capture the information. So I think it's wonderful when they can do it, but we don't want to compel them to do that. That's all. We want to accommodate whatever their situation is in that moment. And the other thing, if I can confuse things further, I just worry about doing the families because of the randomization, right? If we're going to be looking to capture every fifth person, or if we come up with a strategy to make this add some scientific rigor, then sometimes getting a family and taking two from the family is bypassing that, is it not?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But if it's a slow day and it looks like it's going to rain,
understood.
Budget and
reality enters.
Enters
the chat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Diane is asking, oh no, Madeline is asking, so if we're using iPads or other handheld devices or paper surveys, we are using handhelds. Yes, Madeline, the answer is, yeah, we have options. We're trying to provide everyone with options. So if you prefer paper, go with paper. If you prefer the iPad, go with the iPad. If you prefer your own phone, that's possible too, because there'll be a link to Qualtrics.
But the hierarchy of all of this would be preferable to collect it electronically, so there's less work down the road, I think. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
Although
safe.
I love the paper version. I'm not,
Yeah. Diana, you're asking if you're collecting on your phone or iPad, you need to make sure they don't walk away with it. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I've not found that people have done that, although someone on our team had some concerns about that once, about someone wanting to be interviewed maybe a little too much because they were eyeing the iPad. But yeah, I think that's another reason that you might want to collect the data yourself in conversation to not worry about losing devices, especially, I guess, if it's your phone. I probably would recommend not handing it over to someone. If it's the iPad that we're renting iPads, you can take that risk. Okay, so some straightforward questions about who came with you to the park. Check all that apply. I mean, sometimes people are coming with their partners, and they're coming to a party with an association that they're a part of. So some of the questions may have multiple answers to them. So check all that apply. We had an interesting debate about pets. I don't know if this is the place to go in, but we're sort of thinking that, people often feel that their pets are part of the family. And so, people's notions of sociality are changing. And so it'd be nice to recognize, that if people are coming with their pets, that we could mark that down. Savannah is asking, for the paper version, would the park be responsible for inputting the paper data into a digital copy? No, the leads will take care of that. But I think the leads really need to make sure that the information on the survey is clear. So if you're doing paper versions, please keep that in mind, that somebody else has to make sense of the information. And most of this is checking things off, but sometimes it's, there could be some confusion as to what was intended. So just keep that in mind. What are the minimum ages that we're looking for to keep above? Yes, that is a good question. I think we want to stick to adults, which would be 18-year-olds or higher or older. I think I think it would be interesting to know what young people think, but I think we would rather just focus on adults to not create any confusion or create any concerns. We often in social science research, when you're working with when you're studying the experiences and views of youth, you have to go through an IRB process. Your protocols have to be vetted by a review board and so forth. So it's taken sort of seriously. Any vulnerable population, your research has to be vetted, and so it's sort of different circumstances when you interview young people. So it's in this case, we'll stick with adults to circumvent those issues. Wolfram is saying 2 towns with entrances has a total population. Most visitors are from. Okay, this is good information, Wolfman, and we'll mull that over and think about how to best position ourselves and the team to collect data at those parks. So, the visitor use questions are somewhat straightforward. One area I think we're going to need some feedback on from everyone here is on the question of what do you plan to do here today? Because we wanted to ask, we wanted to make the survey as easy as possible to get through by checking things off. It'd be great if we covered the universe of activities in the parks, but we're not sure if this list does it. And there might be some other activities that people suggest that we include on this list. So if you have any thoughts about that, let us know. Oh, okay. Mike is asking how would we know if someone is 18, as the question doesn't come up. I guess if you have if it's ambiguous whether a person is old enough to do the survey, you could ask them in the beginning, before you get through all those questions, you can say, I'd like to ask this question. Do you mind, letting me know, are you 18 or older? It's another thing. I mean, when I was talking about style, about developing your own style, it's possible that in a conversation, different questions will be answered and you may go out of order. I don't think you should feel like you need to be so, sticking to the order so rigidly. Of course, it gets confusing if you skip around and miss things, but this kind of situation that Mike is asking about, it may be necessary to go out of order to ask someone first, how old are you, or, can we do this? Can we do this interview? It's okay to go out of order. Okay, so we're getting some good suggestions for activities to add. So we'll keep it coming, keep telling us other ideas, and we'll add them to the survey. Let's go on to section 2, which is visitor evaluations of the park. These are questions that I wanted to say something about them. These are very, very important to get answers to. and they help the park directly develop its report card. You know, sort of a status report on how the park is doing. So the park administration is very interested in knowing if you know, the park is meeting certain standards in these areas here of helpfulness and the cleanliness of the restrooms and buildings, conditions of the buildings, and so forth. One thing I want to say, though, is that because there's so many things that are important to reporting on the park report card, it's hard to go through these questions at a pace that is natural, because it's like pelting people with a lot of different, you know, questions on it's not going to be necessary to each and every time refer to the scale. You know, again, going back to developing a style, it's important to kind of say, look, I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions on a scale of, you know, 1 to 4. And so that you're not always saying, on a scale of 1 to 4, what do you think about staff courtesy? On a scale of 1 to 4, what do you think about? It becomes a lot to kind of do this very repetitive kind of questioning. So it's going to be important to kind of develop a style where you can ask people comfortably these questions, but in such a way where they give you real answers, and they're not just giving you answers just to get through with it, but because it's very regimented and repetitive, it's actually a tricky part of the interview to get through. But I really want to underscore, it's like one of the most important parts of the survey, because this is really what the park is very interested in knowing, is, you know, how people perceive and evaluate the park services and facilities.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to address, somebody asked a question about whether they should keep chiming in with suggestions or should they be emailed. And I think that's a great question, and we always welcome the email suggestions for sure. And as we go into breakout rooms, you'll have occasion to add some more things, and we'll be writing them down. But thank you for that. And by all means, feel free to email, correct?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. The door is definitely open. And Kevin, can you make sure to make a note of these while I'm talking these suggestions here? Thanks. Okay, number 12 is still a question we're negotiating. We're not sure if this is going to be asked or not, but there is some interest in getting some park-specific feedback on certain new amenities or certain new facilities that have recently been added or changed in different parks. We've been, the public space research group has been saying that we would need information about what those amenities are, and we'd need to be prepared to know, you know, what kinds of things people might have to say about them. So we're not sure if we're going to ask that question or not yet. It's still up in the air. So that's why it's highlighted in yellow for the moment. More on that if we have to ask it. And then what needs to improve regarding the facilities and services in the park is also really the flip side of the Likert scale questions. Again, this is something that can be checked off, but we're following up number 13 with the only open-ended question in the entire survey, which is please say why and how the facilities and services in the park could be improved. Because again, this is really what the park managers and you know, parks want to know is, well, if there are things to improve, you know, why and how should we go about doing it? So again, this is the only part in the entire survey so far where we're really hoping you'll have a minute to write down some answers that people have. Do you need to write down verbatim what people say? I don't think so. I think we talked about the leads doing some other form of data collection where we'll be focusing on people's stories and expressions, and we'll also be asking about the improvements, suggestion improvements. So it's here, it is not necessary to write verbatim unless you feel it's compelling the way someone puts their feedback. But we hope that we'll get a robust understanding of how people answer this question, as it will be extremely important and helpful to the park. Let's see. Oh, Diana is saying, question 12, if you are a park manager or park worker and want this question, please. Oh, thank you. Yeah, please let Patrick, Christina, Diana, Suzanne, let us know. Yeah, please let us know if the park specific question is something you feel strongly about having on the survey. And then finally, we have the last section, visitor demographics, which is really important for us to capture, as people's responses will mean a lot more if we know who is answering and giving these different views to the survey. So we would like to know what age group people are in. We would like to know about their highest level of education. We would like to know if people are a veteran or not. We would like to know zip codes. I guess this is another area where you have to write something in. We want to know, how far people travel to come to the park, whether they're locals, whether they're from the county, et cetera, and where people are coming from. If they're coming from outside the United States, we'd like to know about tourists and others coming from other countries. We'd like to know about the languages that people speak at home. And these are the languages that the New York State Park tracks and tries to provide information in. So these are the set of languages that we're going to use. If there are other languages, obviously you can write them in as well. We would like to know about people's cultural identity in terms of race or ethnicity. This is always sort of a tricky question, and we've had a lot of debate about how to come up with these categories, and there's no perfect approach. I think hopefully people will tell us how they describe themselves or how they identify. That's always, this is why we phrase it this way, to kind of invite people to provide their terms for identifying themselves, as opposed to us making assumptions about people and checking boxes off. I think it's important not to make assumptions and to ask people to identify if they're willing to. We're also asking people about their accommodation needs, if they have specific needs for accessing the park in terms of mobility, in terms of impairments that have an impact on how they use the park and enjoy the park. So we are asking, do you have any physical or mobility limitations when you're visiting the park? So we can learn a little bit about people, to the extent, again, that they want to share. We ask people, how do you identify in terms of gender? We ask people to how they identify, and we also would like for this to be open so people can express themselves. We don't want to just assume that people fall into either a male or a female category. We know that there are many ways to identify in this world, and so we do want to keep this open-ended and allow for people to tell us how they identify themselves. So we have these various different options: male, female, non-binary, gender fluid, or some other way. And so we would like to capture that. And then finally, we would like to ask people if they're a member of any other identity group that the park should know about, they might have some special concerns. So we would like to know if people would like to share if they're from LGBTQ plus community, or if they're from a community of older adults or youth, or single parents with children, an immigrant group, a religious group, or some other identity group. And then finally, we end asking people if there's anything else that they would like to add that I haven't asked about, and give people an opportunity to share one more time. I do want to say that Parks is very interested in knowing about the issues of special groups, and whether or not they're meeting the needs, and being inclusive and making people feel comfortable and welcome in the park. And especially there's an interest in knowing more about the LGBTQ community. And so we're taking this approach hoping that, folks might want to share information or just identify. We talked a lot about the difficulties of trying to learn more about members of this community and their experiences without being intrusive, and asking people on the spot about their sexual orientation, which is not necessarily, it's not really appropriate to ask these kinds of questions in front of other people. On the other hand, it's important to know about people's experiences, and so we sort of are trying to ask the question in this way, to do the best that we can to learn about the views of folks in this community. Madeline is asking, what about specific options for people on the autism scale? That's a good question. We had some discussion about this. It could be an option. Neurodiversity, neurologically diverse.
It can impact how folks experience a place, right? Especially if you're sensitive to certain sounds, noises, or whatever. I mean, it's definitely worth talking about. We should add that to the discussion.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for raising that. I think that can easily be an option. Any other questions or thoughts about it? Maybe it's kind of a lot. I kind of just talked us through a lot, and I know we wanted to just have a very brief conversation with you in the smaller groups so that we could see if there were some more specific questions. When we asked people to fill out the survey, it was really interesting because we got a lot of folks saying that they were very comfortable approaching visitors in a park. But then we also got a lot of mixed responses to levels of feeling comfortable asking people about their social identities. So that may be something that we could talk about very briefly in the breakout session. So you may have some other questions. We're going to just talk for a few minutes in breakout, and then we'll come back, debrief, and then call it a day. Breakouts. Olive, send us away and we'll just talk for a few minutes. Okay, I have to go into a room. Hello, hello, hello. We're back again. Well, what do you think? Feedback, thoughts, folks, were any other questions that people had? I don't know if all the questions were answered, but love to know what people are thinking about the instrument and how easy or difficult it will be to ask, how comfortable you feel with it. What are your thoughts?
Are we trying to survey people when they're leaving or coming to the park? Because I know some of the questions might be a little hard to answer if this is someone's first time going to the park.
That's a really good, that's a very good question. We haven't, it's not a criteria so far to ask people when they're coming or going. So any direction they're moving in is fine. But you do raise a good question. If it's someone's first time, by the time they leave, they'll have some opinions, whereas there'll be less to say. But I suspect we're really going to be trying to capture as many people as possible. So even if someone is coming in, it's their first time, yeah, they're not going to have much to say, but I would still try to, find out what they know about the park to some extent. And if they say, I'd rather do this when I leave, then of course that's one way of them sort of rejecting the opportunity, rejecting the request to do a survey. So if we get a lot of people who are coming for the first time, I think that's a good point. Like, do we have, what are we learning if everyone's coming for the first time? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll meet some first time people. We're going to meet a lot of people who've been coming for a long time. So that's a very convoluted answer to say it doesn't matter if they're first time visitors and they don't have much to say, or if they're coming or going. We'll just catch them as we can. Does that help?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I think, Suzanne, didn't we also put like some skip logic in there? If they were first time users, there were certain questions that we didn't need to ask. So
yeah,
especially if you're taking the survey, you're doing the data collection on a device, the skip logic is very noticeable. It's actually built into the survey. So if it's their first time, they go to a different question, and there's a follow-up question that's not asked, and that kind of thing. But if they don't know, they don't know, and you can make a note of that.
Good question. Other thoughts, other reactions, just, what do you find compelling about these questions?
Renee said in the chat that the topic of social identity is a hot button issue to some people on Long Island. So we might not get a lot of response to that question. They may choose not to answer it, and you just make a note that they didn't want to say. So that's fine.
Yeah. That's right. It's people's right to refuse to ask. And on Wednesday, we'll talk more about the extent to which you should probe or decide not to probe, or ask further, if you feel that it's so uncomfortable and if there's danger in asking some of these questions, you shouldn't put yourself in danger. So we'll talk more about that though on Wednesday, as I know sometimes asking about gender and so forth can produce some, responses that people feel very frustrated. You're asking, what do you mean? Like, it's not obvious, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you asking me this question? It's, I am clearly this or that. And there are some polite ways of saying, well, I just, wanted to hear you, hear it in your words rather than make assumptions or something like that. There are things that strategies and things that we can say to kind of diffuse the surprise or the pushback from people who don't want to necessarily answer questions on social identity. That's a whole long conversation, actually. And when we meet next week, or rather, yeah, on Wednesday, we're hoping that people will practice this a little bit. We're going to do some practice together just to kind of feel what it's like to ask these questions, and see what it's like prior to just getting out of the field. Other thoughts, other questions or concerns or just observations?
Can I make one answer to that question? Wolfman John, you hear me?
Yes, Wolfman.
Okay, I think that question is actually unnecessary because people that visit the park, no matter what gender they are others, are there for one purpose. So I don't think that's a necessary question. That's just my opinion.
I think in terms of gender, I think it can be very illuminating as, you know, different kinds of people have different experiences. I mean, men and women have different experiences.
I talk about sexual orientation too. It doesn't really matter because they're all there for one experience.
Well, that's why, I mean, we had some discussion about, we're including it actually because the park is interested in knowing, because visitors have talked about feeling welcomed, and, you know, and that's a question that the parks have, is that, you know, this is a constituency that is interested in feeling more welcomed in the park. On the other hand, you know, I think it's uncomfortable, and you know, it's invasive to ask people about their sexual orientation. But if people want to tell us about, you know, how they enjoy or don't enjoy the park on the basis of their sexual orientation, I think, you know, the park should want to know about it. So
yeah, it's a valid point. I think I'll make a nice comment though. We do have an autistic trail in Letchworth State Park, which just installed a couple years ago. So for the autistic people, we have a trail that they can go to. It has all kinds of toys in that for the children to play. It has a quiet zone. It's all specifically set for autistic people. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think Diana, we should return to that conversation. I mean, we had talked about it and then we eliminated it, and I think we should include that as an option. Anything else? Any other feedback, questions, surprises, anything you're surprised by?
There was mention of incentivizing the survey. When should the interviewers mention that there could be a prize, or, you know, an offering or something, a raffle, whatever it is, at the beginning, at the end? And if we're doing a drawing for gift cards or Empire passes or whatever it is, we're going to need to collect some kind of contact information from our samplers.
Yeah, I think based on our, well, an incentive should be mentioned, I think, in the beginning. Because the function of it is to get people to agree to do the survey. So sooner than later, I think, is in you know, is when we should be mentioning it. As to whether we're collecting emails and things like that, so we're still waiting, I guess, for some feedback from public affairs. Because I think they had a variety of different options. There were the swag option, and then there was the gift card option. And so whether we collect emails or not will depend on public affairs and what kind of support in the area of incentives they provide, you know?
Yep.
We're hoping that we're hoping though for incentives that are easy to carry. So
yeah,
we're hoping it's not like gallons of water, you know.
Yeah, I think what we have determined was there's a sunscreen and a first aid kit, you know, a little travel first aid kit. So they're small. And then we talked about I think they could arrange for 4 Empire passes to be raffled off so that we could spread them across the state.
That's great. Okay, great.
Renee also is asking if someone were to walk away mid-survey, would we still submit that survey?
Yes, we would. We could still submit it. for sure. We would just write NA. Okay, we're back. Before we left in my group, Renee was asking if someone walks away from a survey, mid-survey, should we still submit that survey? And I think we should still submit it. It just will be a partial survey. There'll be a lot of, NA, not applicable, or didn't ask. And we can make a note of it that they walked away, but that's fine. If people walk away, they walk away. You didn't do anything wrong. They just, decided not to do it. And yes, you should still submit it. Okay, just quickly, just very, very quickly, because I know we have to get off to lunch and breakfast for some of us, lunch for others. What was the discussion in your breakout rooms? Kevin, an update from your corner?
Very quickly, I want to make clear to everybody that the only time we're really listing all of the options is the Likert scale, right? And so there was some confusion as to, for example, question 13, what needs to improve regarding the facilities and services at the park? You do not need to read all of those choices. We're going to be listening to responses and checking things off, nor do you need to suggest anything. I think, if there's an other, there's another, and you can write a few words, but that is not a requirement. In the interest of time, I'll let Dana or you share other, but we'll talk later. This was a great and it was a really fruitful conversation.
Dana, from your corner.
I think one of the things that comes to mind is the length of the instrument, and the need on one hand to add certain activities, for example, to the activity list, but then making it even longer. So how do we sort of work that out? And someone suggested grouping the activities into similar kinds of activities, so that to make it a little easier to navigate through it, through the list as you're talking to people. So that was one of the things that came out.
That's great. Okay, Diana, can I put you on the spot to represent our group? Only because I've been doing a lot of talking.
You could try. We had questions about, well, you mentioned the first one there that Renee was asking if we had to submit incomplete questions or incomplete surveys. I'm drawing a blank. So we had talked about incentives, when we mention incentives and what types of incentives might be available. We were thinking that we would mention incentives in the beginning of the survey, having something small for people to hand out as they take this, after they've taken the survey. I think, Patrick, you can help me out here. I think we were narrowing down on sunscreen and
First aid kits.
A first aid kit, yes. And there was also talk of
the entry for an Empire Pass.
Right. 3 or 4 Empire passes to raffle off. So we might need to collect some contact information from our interviewees. And we'll work that into the survey.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you remember what the other question or the topic was?
That was good. That was good. We talked a lot about social identity, I guess.
Right.
How easy or difficult it is to collect some of this information. How necessary or unnecessary some of the information might be, what the park does with it.
Right.
So
we also talked about the needs, the accessibility needs of individuals, and that we should add the autism spectrum and neurodivergent individuals because they experience parks differently, as
Yeah.
Kevin was saying.
Yes, and at some parks we're acknowledging that by having autism trails and things like that is, and I think that really underscores the importance of asking about that. So many interesting things and such great feedback that everyone provided. I really appreciate these discussions. It's really helpful. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy hearing these insights and hearing about people's experiences and their observations. So we are really off to a great start with and we're so fortunate to have such an invested group of folks who want to participate in this very important study. So we will continue the conversation on Wednesday. Before I say goodbye, I just want to say Patty's asking about touch pens, stylos for iPads. I'll look into it to see if we can, if they come with the rentals. So I'll update you on that. But our intention is to provide as much equipment as possible to make this as easy and doable as possible. So thank you for mentioning that, Patty. So we will reconvene on Wednesday. And what I'd like to ask folks to do is between now and Wednesday is to try to experiment with the instrument, see if you can practice it maybe on a friend or a peer or colleague just to kind of get a feel. We're going to practice it in groups when we come back together on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about strategies for actually, getting the attention of park visitors, introducing the survey, keeping people engaged while taking the survey. And we're going to talk about ethics as well, knowing when to bail, knowing what to do when people say things that create tensions and dilemmas and so forth. Yes, we will come back together. Someone is asking, Lalo, Mio, yes, of course we can speak. I think I have your phone number. I can give you a call in just a few minutes after we end. So thanks for coming today. Try to practice the survey a couple of times so you can report back on Wednesday how it went. Be prepared on Wednesday to practice it with us, with our team. This is a safe space, and so it'll be interesting and fun and productive to practice together and to have further discussion about it. If anyone has any other questions or concerns, our emails, I think we have our emails. Do you not have our emails? Does everyone have our emails? Maybe we can quickly drop them in the box here. If you don't have it, this is how you can reach me. And you can email anytime with any questions, and throughout the week, I'm happy to talk to anyone about any concerns they have or any thoughts they have. Anything else? Kevin, anything you want to add? You're on mute. You're on mute.
With 2 minutes left, I just want to address the final comment that happened in our group, which was, what about children who, when we're talking about language and language barriers to accessing park users? A, we're grateful for any skill set you have. B, there will be a QR code and the survey instrument will be available in multiple languages. And somebody asked about, what about children who do that kind of cultural brokering for folks? And is that acceptable? And I guess I wanted to get your thought on it before we left.
Yeah, I think it's not necessary to interview children,
I mean, children, interpreting for adults. Just no, or?
Yeah, I think we could find others maybe.
Okay.
Rather than burden children,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it for me. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you, everyone. It was very successful and really interesting. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Have a great weekend. Bye. Have fun in the parks. Diana, thank you so much for all your participation. Many apologies for just putting you on the spot, but you have such a great perspective and so much wisdom. And I'm talking far too much. So I thought, oh yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Ciao, ciao. Da 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 da. So now I want to just save the chat, and when I exit this, I'm not going to lose it, right?